there. And now let's get some more analysis, and let me bring in my guest, Makram Rabah, Assistant Professor of the Department of History and Archaeology at the American University of Beirut. Welcome to Asia Today, Professor.
Good afternoon.
First of all, I'd like to get your assessment of the current situation. Many analysts say that a regional war hangs in the balance. Might we see a further escalation?
Well, certainly the situation can be branded as volatile. Yet at the same time, the recent attack by Iran, or the retaliatory attack by Iran on Israel, has proven that regional war is not totally uncontrollable. And we see in the way that Iran responded and in the way that the US has mediated either directly or indirectly, that there is a kind of a safety net. Everyone involved wants to save face, but at the same time they realize a direct confrontation between these two regional powers is not really on the table. So I think going forward, the situation will remain volatile and somewhat dangerous. However, I think we will go back to the traditional rules of engagement, which is basically Iran using its proxies like it has done over the last decades. And Iran and Israel, on the other hand, will be more careful in targeting Iranian targets. This does not entail them not going after the proxies of Iran, because in Biden's call with Netanyahu, he was clear that he will not sanction and he will not help Netanyahu in any attack, direct attack against Iran. But this does not include any of Iran's many proxies, including Hezbollah.
And we've seen multiple rounds of diplomatic efforts trying to contain the situation and to bring peace back to the region. How do you read into these diplomatic efforts?
Well, I think that the mediation here doesn't really lead us to peace, but rather to a kind of containment of direct confrontation, as I just mentioned. The US or even the Gulf states have tried more or less to act as a backdoor diplomatic channels to both the Iranians and the Israelis. However, I believe that ultimately, as long as Netanyahu is in power and as long as the Iranian regime wants to be there on the table once the fighting has stopped, this will remain a kind of a point of contention. The main problem is that both sides want to be theatrical. At the same time, they are not really much invested in a direct confrontation. The problem here is that the people who are paying the price are ultimately the Arabs, and particularly the Palestinians, whose case and whose condition has been kind of demoted on the list of priorities. So rather than focusing on the killing that is taking place in Gaza or in Rafah, now we have to worry about these theatrical attacks either by Iran or whatever the Israelis will conjure up in the next few days.
Professor Makram Rabah, thank you so much for your analysis. Appreciate your input. Let's move on to other news now.